Alright guys, today I want to talk about Terence Mckenna and all of his crazy theories. If you don't know who Terence Mckenna is, he is a guy who made DMT he brought it to the mainstream. It's like nobody really knew what it was, what was going on with ethnobotany until Terence started teaching us. So it was in the 80s, and he was talking about things like memes and all kinds of stuff back in the 80s and the internet and all the things that we talk about now. But so hard to understand him sometimes, and I think even the people that loved him the most just liked listening to him. So I'm going to explain some crazy shit to you in simpler fashion. So starting off with the stoned ape hypothesis, Terence would say that there was a time during evolution that the earth tilts, and there are many different causes for climate change, and climate change is a reoccurring thing over many years. So what happens is certain animals are stupid, and they're like bugs and stuff like that, and if their food source goes away, they will either adapt or die, most likely die. And they'll die out, they'll go extinct. If there is a more intelligent creature that is more desperate, they will try new food sources before they die. And we can observe this happening in modern times with apes and monkeys, things like that we would have come from. We do see them do that. They will leave the canopy for mushrooms. They will search new places for food before they will let themselves perish. The interesting thing is that the stoned ape hypothesis says that we moved out of the trees, that during this climate change, it was so bad that we had to start moving across the grasslands. We had to start becoming nomad wanderers, and the only way that this was possible was through a society, was through a group. We had to become and monkeys are already like that before that point. So if you look into what mushrooms do, they actually, so you're a hunter and you're on the landscape and you're looking for food, you would find these psilocybin mushrooms growing out of turds, and that is one thing that apes know where to find food. Grubs even, and bugs, other things than mushrooms are there to eat in the turds. But if you accidentally ingest psilocybin in just a small amount, it increases your eyesight, it improves your edge detection, and it also makes you slightly horny because it gives you this thing called central nervous system arousal, where you get excited and you don't know what to do, and if you're a monkey, you don't got a lot to do. So what do? You have babies, and then if your eyesight's better, you're better at hunting and you're able to feed those babies. So accidental ingestion of psilocybin mushrooms can hypothetically grow a population and its ability to successfully feed its children. Another thing is like the orgiastic society that would therefore, so the boundary dissolution is another thing that he believed in, that mushrooms do a specific thing that is cause the imagined boundaries between you and the world around you to fade away. So what you think, how are we so uncomfortable in nature? Well, when you go out in nature and you're doing a psychedelic, some of those fears and weird things happen like that. They go away. You can like hold a spider, and yeah, sometimes that's extremely scary if you're tripping, but sometimes there's a whole different mindset where you feel at one with nature. And if you were doing this on a regular basis, it would help to increase cohesion between you and the place around you. So another idea where it gets a little bit more batshit crazy is that these very mushrooms, especially magic mushrooms, can survive the vacuum of space and have this different biological architecture I talked about before. That is a 4-phosphorylated indole. I don't know what that means. Go ahead and look it up. But it basically means the cell structure is different and that it may have come from a different planet in the past. And if this is the case, Terence suggests, how far is the fungal communication network? Is it cosmic? It's a little strange to think about because fungal communication is crazy intense and intelligent, and it's all over the planet in as many neuron nodes of communication as there are neurons in a human brain in just an acre, I think it was. So it's really intense how much communication goes on below our feet that we don't know about. Now, if one of those communicating animals came from another planet, is it possible that it can still communicate with its mother mycelium or something like that? So the idea is that some of the information that we're getting through speaking with mushrooms, could it be cosmic information? Could we learn through tripping and talking to these ethereal aliens how to build spaceships to get off the planet, how to quickly terraform new planets, how to do things that we human beings don't know how to do. And if you're a deep, crazy, batshit conspiracy theorist, you would think, well, that's where we got all our technological information in the first place, was through weird things like that. So, boundary dissolution, order, blah, blah, blah. So, one of the other clues to this is that civilization as we know it, the big buildings, the concrete jungle, and all that stuff, it all traces back to tribal societies. Every society basically starts out as a tribe. And the interesting thing that caught my attention when I started studying this was that if you look at, say, like a Native American tribe and an African tribe, we separate the two in our minds. But if you think about their characteristics and what they do, we know that there's some people in Africa that do ayahuasca, well, South America that do ayahuasca. I'm not sure what all they do in Africa, but I know they have iboga over there. We have peyote, we have marijuana, we have salvia over here. These things are known, used by tribal societies, and the weird thing is that when I pictured it, I pictured Native Americans and they dance around a fire. These are our story-told images. I don't know Native Americans. I've never been to any celebrations to know. But I picture the fire and they're dancing around, they're beating the drums and they're singing. And then you zoom over to Africa. Now what do they do in your mind when they do their stuff? They're beating drums and they're dancing around a fire and they're singing. And you can go from continent to continent. And the weird thing about this is that these tribes were not communicating with each other, so why are their practices the same? That leads to say maybe their intelligence or something about their growth as a society came up around these chemicals, because they're all focused around trance states, shamans, shamanism, medicine men. They're in all of these tribal societies. Now, how did they all come up with those same characteristics on their own? One of the things that these tribal societies say, if you're in the Amazon and you're talking to one of them about what they're encountering when they're on these chemicals, they tell you from the handed down thousands of years of word of mouth knowledge that it is the ancestor spirits, that they are dead people and they are here to help you and they teach you things. And Terence, when he would have these encounters with entities on his trips, he came out with conclusions that were trying to be logical. He's saying, okay, it seems to speak my language, it seems to be excited to see me, to speak to me, to know what I am. It says I come so rarely. There's a familiarity there, but it's also incredibly alien, and he's trying to think about what it could be. Now, he came to the conclusion that it was more likely that it was dead people than it was aliens, not that it's more believable or anything. There was not more evidence to back up that theory. It just seemed more likely in his head that it could be humans from the very, very far future when they're so far evolved that they've just become language. Or people who are in the next life that are just our ancestors, our family, that say, there you are, it's been so long, come here, buddy, look at this, let me show you some shit. Don't freak out, we love you. So he's like, maybe these are ancestors. And then, so the language thing, they speak to you with language. One of Terence's big theories was that the world is not matter, but that it is language, that that it's made of communication, and that this whole, kind of what I was talking about in another video. So he would probably agree with me on the fact that a tree wouldn't make noise if it fell in the woods. Just because the whole idea of the universe to him was that it was made of communication, of language. So, he's the purveyor of 5 dried grams, you know that. Time wave zero. Time wave zero is one of the most batshit theories. And that was when he was studying. So your DNA has, I think it's 64 sections. And there's an ancient calendar that also has 64 sections. And if you look at calendars in time, they're all kind of these fractal divisible sections. You've got all by sixes. You've got, 60 seconds in a minute, and then 24 hours in a day is divisible by 6. You've got your 365 point whatever days in a year, that's divisible by 6 if it was 366. So that it all is based around this like fractal unit of measurement, and he found this measurement that seemed to line up with his birthday, the death of his mother, And then on larger scales, you'd apply this same geometric pattern or whatever to that scale, and he would see it line up with world wars and things like that. So he started to call this thing novelty. Novelty is when something just random, this bubble of regularness pops, and this new weirdness comes through. And we felt that happening. Terence Mckenna believed that the world was going to end, or that we were going to experience this novelty pop in 2012 because his geometric pattern had almost lined up with the Mayan calendar, so he just smacked it on the Mayan calendar date to line up with it. And if he was here today, I think he would be talking his ass off about what happened in that amount of time between 2012 and now. I think that it was an incredible burst of novelty. It just wasn't the end of the world or the end of all time, but we are much closer, I think, to a singularity than we were before because of the internet and technology, and now we have this exponential rate of evolution through that. So he would have a lot to say if he were here. But time wave zero, so the idea is that you could place this over any point in time in this, and it would tell you, you would see a spike every time something crazy happened in this thing. And I'm not going to lie, it was BS. Computers and all that stuff were pretty new, and Terence got pretty excited about it because if you were tripping balls and you found all this out, you would be like, I gotta fucking tell somebody about this. But calendars and astrology and all that stuff is really hard to nail down. So overall, when you go back and watch Terence McKenna's videos, and he will talk about it and this, and there's so much ambiguity, he's talking about the nature that DMT is within everything, that DMT gives us this language-like experience, and that maybe all things are made of language, that all people have grown up around these experiences, and that you can trace the responsibility of our evolution straight back to the presence of these chemicals in our ecosystem, and that those chemicals may have been delivered here from a planet, that this could be an alien thing talking to us and could be trying to offer us cosmic help if we were ready for it. But however, it does not say that we are. Terence was never able to get information out of it that proved that it wasn't coming from his own mind, which says a lot because he has more experience with it probably than a lot of people. So that is the frontier. That is the frontier. If more people have these experiences, maybe the world will be a better place. And if Terence's batshit theories are true, we could speak with aliens, cosmic entities that could give us information as to how to get off this planet before we blow up. So thank you for listening, and hopefully you can go watch some Terence McKenna videos now, and he won't not make any fucking sense. So hopefully this made sense. Thank you.